Tapped In Media, Russ and Rojo are back inside in a new studio.
Look at us.
Just look at us. This is not too bad.
Moving on up.
Yeah, this is okay, right? With our first in-person guest, and we also have Joseph who's on the board here too. We'll talk about our in-person.
Much appreciate you, Joseph.
We didn't even know that was going to happen like that, but that's actually really cool, Joseph. Hell yeah. But before we get into our next guest, let's shout out to Hershey Del Cid of Del Cid Coffee for spending some time with us in our last interview, which was really cool. She sponsors the show here. Thank you, Hershey.
And make sure you go to delcidcoffee.com. Use promo code tappedin_media and get your discount.
Because you got to get the promo in there, man.
You got to get it in.
You got to do that right there. She is the first coffee in the world exported and imported by, and she's the farmer and she's a woman in independent business. So any support like that would be amazing. Head on over to Del Cid Coffee and also check her out on Instagram at, is it Café Del Cid?
Café Del Cid.
Right? I got that right.
Well, that's her Instagram.
Yeah. But then the website
Coffee.
is the website.
Delcidcoffee.com is her website.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not messing up. But if you haven't done that or if you haven't done this, head on over to our YouTube channel at Tapped In Media. Make sure you check out all the interviews that we put up there. We got a bunch of shorts up there, and of course the other interviews: Garrison King, EJ from Vegas, Dave Styles, and
Edwin
we got
Covarrubias.
Yeah. So we've
from
been
Scary.fm.
We've been stacking them up.
Nostalgic Latino.
The best way to support us is tap the subscribe button or the like buttons. Also, give us a follow on IG at tappedin_media and TikTok.
We are officially on TikTok.
All right.
Look at us.
If you must, dude. If you must with the TikTok
That's
thing.
also
I mean, that is all you. I'm not messing with that shit.
That is tappedin_media as well on TikTok. Twitter, I think, or X, I should say, kind of fell off.
Yeah, a little bit.
Didn't fall off. It's hard to get people to really tune in over there.
Yeah, I know.
It's a whole different beast.
We don't even bother with the Twitter stuff anymore. We just kind of gave up. You know?
Yeah,
I do like my personal account though.
So do I.
Whatever. All right. We're moving on, man. Go ahead.
Moving on. And so today, as he mentioned, our first in-person host, and he is host of Unsolved, heard on KFI M640 on Saturdays from 7 to 9.
That's right.
Studio 640, which we'll talk about a little more. And national correspondent for iHeartMedia at KFI M640, and who has won 8 prestigious Edward Murrow Awards and 35. I could be wrong because it could be more. 35 Golden Mike Awards. Welcome, none other than the great Steve Gregory.
To Tapped In, brother.
Thank you, man.
It's great to have you. Great to have me here. I was very flattered that you invited me. I thought this was
awesome.
Really cool.
Honestly, we didn't think you'd
like. Well, why wouldn't I?
We didn't think he.
I've known you guys for years. Why would I not come out?
Yeah, I didn't think you would respond to our DM.
I think that surprises us the most when people tell us yeah, we'll do it. I'm like, you really? Because but then they look at what we're doing and the product we're doing.
One of the first people that I did reach out to over there was Shannon Farron. Ghosted.
She didn't even hit us back. She's I am not talking about.
Well, here's the thing. I will honestly say at this time of the year, I mean, her first game was this weekend. Because when she's not on air at KFI, she's traveling with the Chargers.
That's true.
And so she's doing Chargers every weekend. So that's happening.
Yes, this was way before.
Oh, okay. That I don't have any.
So there goes
much love to her.
I don't have any defense.
I still appreciate her, but
no
Shannon
defense.
Farron, once you see this, we still want to have you on.
Yeah, for sure. Come on through. But Steve is a radio veteran, straight up. He's an award-winning journalist, which we've already talked about, and we've noted out his achievements. And we have a bunch of questions that we've, we dig in and we try to see what the accomplishments that you've done, Steve. And we're excited that you're here on our precious little podcast, Tapped In Media. So thanks again for coming.
Still growing
to our 3P studios. Do I have that right, Joseph? 3P studios. Yeah,
3P studios.
In Pomona. Very cool. Rojo, I mean, I was gonna let you go ahead and take the anchor.
No, yeah, I mean,
off the bat,
obviously, as we mentioned, 35 Golden Mike Awards.
Actually, it's 83.
Oh, wow. Why so humbly, why did you put 35 in your...
Let me correct that.
Yeah, put that down.
I don't know
that.
I don't know which... And the only reason I say that, and I don't want to be arrogant about it, but the only reason I say that is because Tim Conway Jr. pushes me hard on that. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it's closer to 90 when I count the group trophies because of this past season. But it's because Conway keeps bugging me about it, and an intern had gone back, and I just kept making up numbers because I didn't know. I really didn't know because I don't really care, to be honest with you. And so the intern comes back and says, well, this is what I found. And I started laughing. I said, I have that many? Are you sure? And we went back and checked. They said, yeah. So, I've been very blessed. And
Wow. That's
And
pretty
then
incredible.
you're the first journalist to be awarded the California Post Commission. Am I correct?
That is correct. In 2016, I became the first working journalist to be certified by the state of California to teach law enforcement. And what that is Post is Peace Officer Standards and Training. Every peace officer in California has to be Post certified in order to be a peace officer. So I've been a media trainer for law enforcement for years. And in 2016, LAPD, because I'm an adjunct instructor at their academy, and I'm also an adjunct instructor at the LA County Sheriff's Department. So they said, well, let's get you Post certified so that it helps me, but it also helps the officers know that they can trust me when I walk into a classroom.
Right.
They know that at least I know the basics about how to teach law enforcement. I'm not a shill for law enforcement. I just go in and tell them better ways and techniques to deal with people like me. And that's really what it does, because helping them really helps me and my colleagues.
Okay, so looking back at all your accomplishments, right?
Oh, and then to your point, I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
Yeah, and then in 2021, the state gave me an award, Excellence in Training Award.
Nice.
That's right. I
Well,
did have that written down,
we did
too.
So I
see
thought
that.
that's what you were
yeah, no,
asking about, because
he didn't get to it. Sometimes he
Yeah.
likes to fall off and not get through the entire question.
Wow.
Well, no, because I thought that's what you asked me.
Come on, buddy.
I'm sorry, I thought that's what you
It's
had
all
asked
good.
me, because you said
It's
you
all
were-
good. My fault.
No, but that surprised and shocked me, because I was just like, what? I was nominated by the LAPD, and then I got a letter in the mail from Sheriff John McMahon at San Bernardino County Sheriff congratulating me on this award. I'm like, what award? I don't know what you're talking about.
People are just handing you out awards like,
Yeah, they're just sending
Like,
me
here you go.
awards. So then
Your name pops up.
I call him and I say, thank you for the card. And it had his challenge coin and a handwritten card from the sheriff. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes,
That's
they haven't been in touch
amazing,
with you yet? And I said, no, what are you talking about? And then I got an email. He calls the director, whatever at Post, and says, Steve doesn't know about this yet. And I'm like, well, sorry. And so anyway,
Be nice to give
I
him a
went up
little
to a
heads up.
ceremony in Sacramento, and they give me this beautiful crystal trophy. And
Wow.
and yeah, so it's
Can we get a picture of that? We want to put it in the interview. No, seriously though.
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Is that cool? All right.
I think
all
so,
right.
yeah.
But okay, I got to ask this now, because now we went through all your accomplishments. We did do that. But what is your favorite type of reporting? Because you are a versatile reporter. Is it the breaking news, the red carpets, or is it the on-scene correspondence? Because of the type, or sometimes you just like staying in the booth as anchor.
I don't know that I have a favorite, because sometimes some of my favorite stories are ones that I never have to leave the building, because it's about the content, it's about whatever it is the story I'm telling. But I will tell you, I still get a thrill out of going to the big stories.
Oh,
So
yeah.
whether it was sent to Hurricane Katrina, or whether it was the riots in St. Louis or Ferguson, the earthquake in Anchorage, the fires on Maui.
My gosh.
That's the stuff I really enjoy. I like going out and being on the front lines of possible historic moments.
Yeah. So the on-scene corresponding is where most of your stories go to anyway. Like just you brought up the Hawaii fires. How long were you out there for a story like that? Do they keep you out there
I was
for
8
like
days.
8 days. Wow.
I was 9 days in Katrina, 8 days there, 5 days at the earthquake, 7.0 earthquake in Anchorage.
And some of this stuff is just like you got to pick up and go, right? As soon as you get the assignment.
I have a go bag, and then I've got a gear bag, and then it depends on what the demands are going to be, whether I'm going to be on the air constantly with all the different shows and the network, or whether I'm just hidden out there like when I was in Carson City for O.J. Simpson's parole hearing, and I was sitting in the parole room. I didn't have to take as much stuff up there, because that was just a one-day thing, couple live hits from the hotel, and then I'm back. So whereas an unfolding disaster, it takes days, because you want to be there for kind of the recovery and like wildfires or anything like that. So the OJ thing was a one-off, like a 1 or 2 day, 48 hour. I fly in, do the story, and fly back. Disasters tend to be longer.
You were also at the Diddy raid.
I wasn't just at the Diddy raid. I broke that story.
Okay, you know
See?
what? You're absolutely, and that's a great part of too. I'm glad you brought that up too.
He looked at me very serious about it.
Well,
too.
yeah,
Well, because the breaking news part is
Because let me ask you this.
huge.
Who do you think broke that story?
KFI.
No,
Steve Gregory.
No. You didn't know that, but I'm being honest.
I don't.
Who did, when you first saw it on the news, who did you give credit? It's like, oh my God.
Well, I saw it on Fox 11.
Right.
Okay. But your network is pretty large, so you probably did hit up your other, but you were there first.
I was working that story for a month.
Really?
A month?
So you already had
I
tabs on it.
I didn't know it was him.
Oh.
And this is how it worked. So this is how it works.
Gotcha.
So my sources, my law enforcement sources, are tipping me off. We got something big coming up. And I always chuckle because I'm like, okay, what's big to you may not be big for me, you know, because sometimes they get really animated and excited.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks goes by and it's like, okay, and they're like, come on, you know, this, you know, we're following this person. Can't tell you who it is right now. And I said, that's fine. And then I said, okay, so you got to give me an idea. How much effort am I going to put into this? So how big are we talking? And the source tells me TMZ is going to love this.
Wow.
That's how he sold me. I'm thinking, okay, so it's a celebrity, or it's, you know, at the time we thought it might have had something to do with Trump because there was issues with Trump at the time being in and out of court.
Right.
So I kind of assumed maybe it was Trump. The Friday before the raid, I get another call and it said, we're still targeting Monday morning. I'll tell you the address. I'll text it to you. And I said, okay, fine. Saturday, the raid's off. We lost eyes on our subject.
Wow.
I said, okay. Our subject took off to the East Coast.
That's when he flew in his private jet down to...
He was supposed to be at the house that Monday for the raid.
They were targeting for that.
Yeah.
And then that
he
didn't
probably
happen,
got tipped off.
No, he didn't get tipped off. No, he had no idea.
Just coincidentally,
No, remember
he
he's
was out.
taking his daughters to spring break.
Oh,
So my source says, we got to get eyes on him again. So we wait. Sunday afternoon. It might be on, it might not be on. I'll let you know. I'm like, okay, I'm cooking dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
Let me know.
You're on standby.
11 o'clock that night on Sunday. Be at this address tomorrow morning at 6:30. The command post. They told me where the command post was. Don't go to the command post. Go down and park around the corner because we don't want you being seen by other law enforcement because there was multiple agencies involved. So I go down there, but I tipped off Fox 11.
What? There it is. See, so
there it is.
So I called my buddies at Fox 11 because they asked me and said, "Do you have any TV friends?" I said, "Yeah, I do."
of course you do.
So I called initially Gigi Graciette.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
She's good.
Yeah.
She was off that day on vacation, and she was like, "Oh my God!" And I said, "Okay." So then the photographer Anthony Joseph, who's been a friend of mine for years, we talked to him. I talked to their assignment desk. I said, "Listen, they're asking if there's a TV person." So Fox 11 met me there, and again, we had no idea who it was. And then it was set up to go at 10, and then it didn't happen. So then he and I went and got breakfast. We're sitting there in a cafe waiting, and then I get the text, 12 o'clock, it's a go.
What?
Park here at this such and such intersection.
Not too far from his estate.
Right. A B line's going to come by, a conga line with Bearcats. Those are the big armored vehicles
Right.
at Swan.
Right.
Are going to come by, fall in line, and follow the Bearcats. And that's what we did. You see my video on my Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that.
You see I'm in the conga line.
Yep.
Which, by the way, is at Steve Gregory. Sorry to interrupt you right
Yeah.
there. At Steve Gregory 640 on Instagram. Give him a follow on that. And also give us a follow at tappedin_media. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
And you got to do it. You got to do it.
Got to plug it in.
You got to do it.
And you can see, and sometime I'll show you the raw video because I
Yeah.
only post a little bit,
Of course, yeah.
where a federal agent comes up to me and tells me to keep the media out. And I give a thumbs up and I go,
yeah.
"You got it, no problem." And then I just keep following in.
See, at first when I saw it, I thought maybe he was pointing you out, like
No.
kind of like singling you out,
Nope.
like, "Hey, get this guy."
He was, but he was telling me to keep the media
keep
out
the media
because
out.
then he
Okay.
saw the Fox 11 truck like 2 or 3 cars behind
Oh,
me.
wow.
He said, "Keep the media out." So you got it.
Yeah,
Just kept
here I go.
driving in. So we drive up, still not knowing, and then we park. Now LAPD's job was to secure perimeter. So I'm driving up and I'm parking off to the side, and I jump out and I see the address. And so immediately I go back to the truck and I'm punching in the address and in the super secret software. And then all of a sudden it pops up that it's owned by, was it Bad Boy Productions or
Bad Boy.
Big
Yeah,
Bad
Bad
Boy.
Boy.
And I look at it and I'm like, Bad Boy, what does that sound familiar? I cross-reference, I see it's Diddy. And I'm like, oh, well then I'm like, well, why? Why the raid? Because at this point, I wasn't being told why. So then I called my source. I said, okay, just tell me. I said, you don't have to tell me who it is, but I said, if you don't correct me, I'm going to assume it's Diddy, right?
Oh, wow.
And then this silence. And I said, just tell me this. Why?
Did they give you the reason?
The source says, the source gave me the 2 keywords to put into Google. And I did, and then it all came up.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm like, holy shit.
That's a huge break.
Can I cuss on this?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're a podcast.
So I'm like, holy shit.
Oh, no, censor that.
So then,
wait a minute.
So then when I did, if you check my X account, you see the date and timestamp. But when I broke the story, TMZ didn't have it until 30 minutes later.
So they were lacking. They were behind.
Well, but here's the thing, though. I mean, credit to Harvey and his crew.
Right.
They break a lot of stories.
They
too.
make a ton of stories.
Right, but
some stories don't have to be broken.
There's a
though,
reason they
real.
break more stories than most, though. And I mean, we don't need to go there, but there's a reason they break more stories than most agencies do.
Well, they pay a little bit more than some agencies, or pay period than other
they'll
agencies.
pay people.
You said it, not me.
Okay.
So
There's truth to that.
We have nothing to lose.
We have nothing to lose.
But here's the thing: if you think about it, they're the ones that broke the death of Michael Jackson. That was
That's right. That was
the
a
story
huge story
that put them on the map.
Right, for sure.
It's sort of a legitimate news gathering organization.
Yeah.
They broke the Kobe Bryant crash.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
true.
that's right.
That is very true.
They have a really good network of people. So, but I'm very fortunate. I have to keep doing it.
And
the way I do it.
I want to talk about that network real quick too, because right now I know you got that West Covina story, and you broke that as well.
That West Covina
and
story
that
is
story
wild.
is where they found hundreds of images of child porn on this subject, and which you just recently, I mean, literally on top of your Instagram page, you just broke that story. But going back to looking at the network, how do you get tips like that, and how do you keep that network coming back to you to give you fresh stories and making sure that the story is authentic?
Great questions. First, there's a connection that these folks have with me, and most all these sources, 98% of them are all law enforcement sources, because they see me as someone who gives them a fair shot in the media. I got into an argument one time with a reporter from the LA Times because the reporter accused me of getting preferential treatment by the cops, and how I give preferential.
It's not fair.
And how, because they were always calling on me in press conferences.
Right.
And I said, well, the difference between how you do news and how I do news is I'm not afraid to do the positive stories and the negative stories.
Right.
Because I've done just as many negative stories about law enforcement. When they screw up, I do the story. But law enforcement looks at it as they're getting a fair shot with me. And so I've built their trust. They know that if they tell me something, if it's in confidence, I'm not going to repeat it.
Right.
In my 47 years in this industry, I've never burned a source. There was one time there was an accident, and it involved a third party, and that was it, but it was an accident. But I've never burned a source. And cops and firefighters are the worst gossips on the planet. If I screw up with one cop or one source, it will spread like wildfire. And my credibility is my only currency.
For sure.
Yeah.
So if I screw that up, I'm dead.
So ultimately, being that they do come back to you on, these types of breaking stories, it is your confidence and credibility that you do keep those things under wraps. And that's why they keep saying, I'm going to keep giving him whatever it is, whatever story, whatever breaking news it is. And because he's not gonna,
he's not one of those that goes and says, this is where I got it from.
Right now, as we speak, I'm sitting on a big one with LA County Probation, a huge one with the juvenile halls.
Wow.
I'm sitting on one now with a serial killer who calls me from jail.
From jail?
Mm-hmm. He calls once, sometimes twice a week. But there's a huge story about to come out on that we're waiting for. But I've been working on that story since January. And then it just piles up. And in fact, I've got more stories I can do than I have time to do them. A lot of them require a lot of investment in time.
Oh, we're definitely going to talk about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously you have a lot that you do here, and you've gone to Hawaii, you've gone to handle the earthquake, but you've also spent a week with the Elite Special Ops in Tijuana. Can you tell us a little bit about that one? This guy's in Tijuana.
I know you wanted to bring that one up too, because when we talk about like as we prep for this, and he was like, I gotta bring that up. I love that he went and was in set with the Tijuana cops?
So this was because I cover immigration. I cover the
Elite
border.
cops.
Elite.
Because that's their SWAT team. That's what they call
Okay.
their
Oh,
they
SWAT
call-
team.
okay.
Yeah, that's their equivalent of SWAT. And we were doing immigration, a lot of immigration stories at the time because there was a lot of attention on the border, a lot of border violence. Tijuana had a problem. There was a few weeks before I went down there. There were more than a dozen bodies stacked like
my
cordwood in a vacant lot in the northeastern part of TJ. And that was like, I'm just like, my boss and I are talking. It's like, we got to go do something because that's our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And the cartel violence was at a fever pitch, and cops were being targeted. Cops were being killed. So we were negotiating with the Tijuana Police Department down there. Unfortunately, I wish I were as fluent in Spanish, but I am not.
Could have taken me.
Yeah.
Had I
I have
known,
my own translator right here.
yeah, had I known. But so one of my editors, Carla, who speaks Spanish, she was the one that was. I was feeding her the information, so she was my real-time interpreter over the phone. And
Shout out Carla Marquez.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
Great
so we
editor.
got a liaison down there who was a former videographer for Telemundo, and he's now in the media office of Tijuana PD. And so he was like, "Yeah, come on down." So we went down, and here's the thing: so during the day, in the mornings, I was covering the murder trial of Esteban Nunez. His dad, Fabian Nunez, was the,
okay.
remember, he was the Speaker of the Assembly.
I remember that. Yeah,
And I was-
that name sounds familiar.
I was covering his son's murder trial in San Diego because he stabbed somebody at a frat party at San Diego State.
Oh, that's
That's
right. That
right,
story was
yeah.
pretty big.
So I'm
yeah.
covering that in the mornings, filing, and then I have to go across the border and meet up with the police department. Because I did that in 2 or 3 days, I think. So I didn't know what to expect. I get down there and we have to wait. I wait out front on this chair in the lobby of the police department there. There's a long line of people sitting outside, and they're all chained up to like one big chain, and they're all handcuffed to this chain. They're all waiting to be processed. But every few minutes, a Jeep pulls up with a military person, and then an officer comes out in handcuffs and gets in the Jeep, and then they drive away. And that happened 4 times before I even got to go inside.
Wow.
A new boss had taken over, a new police commissioner, last name of Leazola. I remember Leazola, Commissioner Leazola, had come in, and he was cleaning out the corrupt cops.
Oh,
this
so
is-
he was.
Oh, okay.
Cleaning
So he
house.
came and did a clean.
Yeah, he was former military that's now in charge of the municipal police. But what he was doing is he was sitting cops down and he was asking them, "Do you know so-and-so? Have you ever taken money?" or whatever. No judge or jury. And he said, "You're done." And then
Wow.
he puts him in military prison.
Dang.
And
Damn,
that's
so
what
they
was
were-
going on that day. So now I'm scared shitless. Like, what did I get myself into here?
I'm over here. This guy's cleaning house, and I'm over
So
here
I'm
trying
like,
to get a story.
Hey, can I have an interview? So I finally go upstairs and meet this guy. And there's a picture online of me standing with this guy. And you see the look on my face and how just how frazzled I am. But I'm standing there next to him with my recorder around my neck, and he's standing there with me. And we do this interview, and we do it with an interpreter. And then at the end, it was completely spontaneous. Well, put your money where your mouth is, because he was like, our police officers are the best. I said, okay, put your money where your mouth is. Let me do a ride along right now.
Wow.
And there's the interpretation, and then the guys, and then they're saying something in Spanish. I have no idea, to this day, I have no clue. And so one thing leads to another, and the liaison says, "Can you be back here at 3 p.m.?" I said, "Yep."
What type of action did you see when you were doing in the ride?
Dude, I can only imagine. I mean,
Well, he's gonna. Give us one. Give us a little.
You know what's so funny is I'm waiting for you to say, "But we'll be back after this break."
there's no break here.
We only have one sponsor right now, but we're getting there.
But so we go eat lunch, and then we go back and we wait, and then they bring this guy in. His name is Alfredo. He's a captain of one of the teams, and he says, "You're going to go with Alfredo." So we're in this like Ford F-150 King Cab truck, brand new, and we get in the back seat of the pickup. In the back, in the bed of the truck was just this long bar, and I remember noting that long bar in the middle of the bed, not knowing what that was for, but I noted it. So we get in the truck. He speaks English, not bad. The other guy spoke no English, and he had an AR-15, and he would rest the AR-15 on the windowsill of the passenger door. And he just sat here like that with that AR-15 pointing out of the window.
That's not scary at all.
And then they had the balaclavas on, so they were covered.
To protect themselves from identity.
Exactly.
Identity.
Okay, yeah.
Meanwhile, the big white man is sitting in there like sticking out like a damn.
Look at me, everybody.
Hey, everybody! I'm an American reporter. Nothing to see here.
Wearing my vest.
That's
What's
right.
going on?
You know, and I'm thinking, do I need one of those? You know, it's like, nope, you sit back there. So I'm recording the.
Can I have
We'll let them target.
Can
the
I have
white
an
guy.
AR, guys?
Well, what
Like,
happened,
no.
I'm taking pictures because this was before like the smartphones took off and, before all the good cameras on smartphones. And I had a regular little Canon camera and I'm taking all kinds of pictures. And at one point, the federal authorities, the federales, drive by and I'm taking pictures. They flip around this big truck with probably 24 of them in it and they pull us over.
What?
And they pull us over, and this guy gets down and goes over and starts screaming at Alfredo, the captain, and he looks at me and says, they want your camera. I said, why?
Oh.
You're not allowed to take pictures of the federales. I said,
Nobody told you.
I'm thinking, okay, so now this is where that sort of weird dual thinking is. Because in the United States, I'm allowed to take photos on a public sidewalk or street.
Whatever.
I got to keep remembering I'm not in the
You're not
United
in the U.S.,
States.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even though the U.S. is just a couple miles north of me, I'm not in the
You're not
U.S.
in the U.S. at all.
So I'm like, well, what's the problem? You're not, I said, okay. And I said,
Did you just have like a little small point and shoot? Or
yeah,
did you
that's
have
what it was, point and shoot.
Yeah,
That
it wasn't
just
like
point and
a
shoot.
rig.
And I said, well, can I have it back? And he said something in Spanish. He said, yeah, you can have it back. So I gave it to him, and he went through and he just deleted the pictures of his truck and his troops.
Oh.
And then he gave it back. And then I was like, how can you, don't you guys work together? And he goes, no, they're assholes. I said, okay, well, that's fine.
So they're not in.
All right, I think he
working
said
together.
pendejo. I think
Pendejo?
I
I believe that. So okay.
So hold up a bit.
You got
before
that one?
Do you want me to finish that story?
Yeah.
Because
Why not?
we didn't even get to the drug dens yet.
Well, see.
Well, they get
And the
to
whorehouse.
Oh, and the whorehouse. So yeah, I want the drugs and the whorehouse.
Or do you
Go.
want to go on another topic?
No.
No, well, we
I
got-
was
I
going to
got
stay
the-
on the TJ topic.
Okay.
But finish
Okay,
that story.
so afterwards we're driving through,
I mean-
and the thing is then the guy the guy that hardly speaks anything, he just grunts, and as soon as he grunts, Alfredo stops the truck, and then all they're doing is picking off people using drugs or drug paraphernalia in the streets, and he just goes bah like that, and the truck stops. They get out and they just go run and catch these people, and then I realize what the bar in the back is for. They're tossing them in the back and handcuffing them to the bar.
No way.
And they were just stacking them up. We did 4 drug arrests in under 40 minutes with no paperwork. Wow. So then we end up at a big drug den, which is an apartment complex. It must have been 4 or 5 stories high. Half of the building was missing. So people were living in these rooms.
drug den.
Drug dens. They were living in this complex with no half of the building. Half of their apartment was missing. It was crumble. It was just rubble. So we go
Like
in
being
there
in Iraq.
and we're going through, and he's literally going through there, and he's telling me, and I'm interviewing him. He says, "This is where they come. They do their drugs." And you see young people, you see old people, all kinds of different ages, shapes, and sizes. And he's there. It's curtains, and he's pulling the curtains back, and people just laying there, all drugged out. And he said, "This is what's going on.
Basically
this is
the
our problem."
slums.
He said, "This is the cartel. This is what the cartels are doing to us."
Wow.
And so it was pretty eye-opening, and we got amazing audio. So we jump back in the truck, and we're driving around some more. And we got on a couple chases and a couple other stories. And I mean, these guys are like driving 110 miles an hour through downtown DJ.
Any arrests on American citizens out there?
No, not that I witnessed.
Mostly Mexican.
Yeah, all nationals.
Nationals.
So we go over to Avenida Revolucion,
Oh yeah,
northern
La
area there,
Revolución.
and I go by, and I just happen to look over, and I see a bunch of these young women dressed like Catholic schoolgirls.
Oh, it just happened.
And I'm like, well, I'm not driving. So I just go, oh, you don't see that every day. So then they say something to each other in Spanish.
Fair.
They pull around, they do a U-turn in the street, and they go park in front of this place. And I go, oh, what's going on? And they're like, come on, we got to go check to make sure it's legal.
Oh.
So we walk in, and the girls are all over the cops, and and they're like, he says, leave your microphone here, don't bring anything in. I said, okay. So we walk in, and then he meets, I assume is the madam, starts talking to this lady in Spanish, and then she comes over to me and puts her hands on my arm and says, oh, we'll take good care of you. I said, whoa, wait, what do you mean you'll take good care of me? And then Alfredo, they're laughing at me and like, we'll come back in an hour.
Wow.
I said, what?
It was it like a little gift that they give because you
Yeah.
came? No way. That's
I
the
mean,
way.
that's the impression I got. And then I go, wait.
Which one did
whoa.
they take you to? Was it Cahuilas? Was it
I don't know the names.
Adelitas?
You're gonna-
Was
you're
it
gonna
Hong
note-
Kong?
you're gonna
Well,
note
how
that?
do you know all
You're gonna
these?
note that. huh?
Everybody knows those.
No, not everybody.
I've never gone.
When I go down there-
I'm putting that out there right now. I've never gone.
Oh.
I just know. I know.
Just in case
we
the
all
wife's
know
watching.
them.
I
We
don't
all
know the
them.
name. I just know that it caught my attention. You don't see that many young women dressed like Catholic schoolgirls that aren't in Catholic school.
They say that a lot of them are from from
That's
San
fair.
Diego.
Well,
I
whatever.
wouldn't be surprised though, like if they are from San Diego.
Sure, I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Cross traffic,
Little
cross
back and
border, a
forth.
lot of cross border commerce. So
Is that the nice way of putting it?
that's the way we do it in journalism.
I was just told that a lot of them
Got
were
it.
like college girls that would come and try to make their money that way and then go right
You
back.
know an awful lot about this.
on the border issue though, real quick, I have
Did
to.
you want to know if I stayed?
Yeah,
Oh, well,
let him finish.
Okay, I do want to know.
He
if
hasn't
you
even gotten into the meat of it.
I thought this was the meat of it.
No, it's like eating a taco. You got to let them enjoy it.
Oh, this.
Okay,
Oh,
you're right.
okay. That's
You're
a
right.
great analogy.
You're right.
So I get into the I get in there, and now that I realize what's going on,
Yeah.
it hits me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh no. I'm on duty. I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm working. Like, no. You stay. We'll be back in an hour. It's like, no. And then I'm literally leaving, and the girls are pulling me back, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. I'm not allowed to do this. I'm on duty. I can't
For
do
sure.
this. And so I go outside, and they're laughing at me, and I'm like, guys, I appreciate the
Yeah.
gesture, but I can't accept this. I can't accept a gift from law enforcement, and I can't be doing this in the middle of the day on
think
the
it's
clock.
But knowing that you were on the other side of
Yeah.
the United States.
Well, no, I mean, still,
It's your journalistic integrity that you had to
I
protect.
told you my credibility is
Your
my only
credibility.
currency.
Man.
So I get back in the truck and we take off, and they're laughing and talking in Spanish. I
That's
have no
awesome.
idea what they were saying.
Good for them.
But,
I'm glad that's payment actually.
But then what's funny, and then I made a joke when we get there at the end of the day and the sun was just going down. I said, okay, what's the address of that place again? And they're laughing at me. But no, I would know.
By
No.
any chance, speaking of TJ, did you by any chance cover the whole like riot that happened in TJ when the cartels were attacking the border area?
No, I think the only other things I've covered down there that were high profile was the jail, the Marine that got jailed for taking the gun across the border.
Oh,
Remember that?
yeah.
He took a wrong turn and he accidentally had a gun with ammo and he got put in prison. I covered that trial. I was down in TJ at the courthouse covering that. And then the Title 42 issues where there was the whole wait down in Mexico before they could come up for asylum in the United States. So I was down there covering that. And there were a lot of protests and rallies with that in mind because they were all gathered right there at the San Ysidro port of entry. But I don't recall that, no.
Okay.
So, since we're on that topic, the U.S. and Mexico border special report, right? You were an embedded reporter, and you had done this report out. And I remember this years ago when you did it. And there's this great sounder of you falling and just taking the. And he's like, we're listening to the audio in the studio with him, and it's just like, I'm like, what is that? He's off. That's me falling in the trenches right there.
That's me falling in a creek on a rock.
Yes,
Really?
and if I'm not mistaken, you did win an award for that piece as well
Yes.
from the Associated Press, right?
Associated
Was
Press
it for the fall or for the coverage?
It was for the sound, and in Golden Mike, I got best use of sound, I think, and best feature or series or something. I can't remember, but yeah, that was Eco Parco Alberto, I think was the name of the place. It was in the state of Hidalgo,
Oh, you were in Hidalgo.
wow. Outside of the town of Ixmiquilpan.
Wow.
Wow, look at you pronouncing it.
And
he's an international journalist, man.
Araxia Carpathian from Fox 11.
Yes.
She was my intern for a year. And she had just gotten her first job in Idaho Falls, I think. And I was telling her about it on the phone one night, and she wanted to go.
Like the story he found on an illegal border crossing theme park in Mexico.
I couldn't stop thinking about it. My news director basically laughed at me, but I said, if I pay my own way, will you let me go? Just let me take the station's camera.
Right.
And he did. And there you have it. I met you in Mexico.
We rented a car
Yep.
and we drove 3 hours.
Yep. Ixmiquilpan.
Ixmiquilpan in the state of Hidalgo.
I'm here in Ixmiquilpan, just north of Mexico City. After midnight, we showed up at this park and waited for the adventure to begin.
I'm falling in the creek. I'm like, Roxy, where are you? It's pitch black outside, and you're way up there. And I'm like, she left me behind, and all I keep thinking about is how you were going to have to repatriate my remains back to the United States.
The audio in that is so funny.
So she actually met me in Mexico City. We flew into Mexico City because she speaks 5 languages, and Spanish being
5.
Oh yeah, that young lady is incredibly bright and
she's really good in the mornings
she's very
on
good.
Fox.
So
she holds it down.
We met in Mexico City, and then we rented a car, and we drove 3 hours north to Ixmiquilpan, and then stayed in a little motel there. And then we went out that night, and what it was by day, it's an ecological park. So it's about sustainability, and it's a beautiful, beautiful area in these mountains and stuff. But at night, on Saturdays, people who had crossed the border illegally into the United States were now volunteers to put people through the experience of crossing the border illegally into the U.S., using that park as
like a training ground.
Not training, well, kind of, I guess, but what it was designed to do was scare people out of doing it.
Because there is that out here where they actually, if you want to have the experience of seeing how it is to cross the border, people can pay for that and have that experience.
Here, where?
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I've seen a little mini documentary on it.
Well, that might be the same place.
It might be.
Because you pay $20, you put your name on a ledger, and then you wait. And then you stand outside and wait as a group. They only limit it to a number of people. Then all of a sudden, these 2 pickups pull up, and these guys get out. And
that's what it is.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
And they kind of like scare, and they grab you, and they just throw
you in the trucks, and then you take off. You have no idea where you're going.
So that's the experience.
And that's the experience. Because they play the coyotes, and then they take you, and then they but then the other volunteers play the border patrol, and they're shooting blanks at you. So you hear gunfire, but you're going through these areas of pitch black darkness. And that's when I tripped and fell in the creek. Now I'm sorry. Roxy is 5 miles ahead of me, and all I kept thinking is she's going to have to repatriate my remains back to the United States because I can't keep up.
It was great, man. Like I
forgot that.
I mean, the raw audio, and I had a chance.
I mean, that's exactly.
And I'm like, what was that? He's all, that's me falling.
That was a full body. That was my full body falling. because my recorder was around my neck. It was on. I had it locked on so I could record everything. And then I hit the mic, and when I fell, everything just hit at once, and it was basically a body cavity shot to the rock.
Oof. So I want to bring something up where I don't know if you remember this. David Cruz had sent me initially to cover this incident or case that happened with the Anaheim PD and an individual that had gotten shot after he was already on the ground, and they shot him again and killed him. And I had got sent over there to get like sound bites and whatnot, and then little by little it started getting crazy. They started breaking windows. Then police came and kind of controlled it. Then you showed up, and then Russell was with me. I think this was it happened the same day.
The Anaheim riots.
The Anaheim riots. Do you remember that?
I vaguely do. Was that the night that the skirmish line was just coming through?
And
then they started rioting, and then the police started shooting pepper pellets.
Pellets at us.
Yelled at us.
And you were yelling at us, get in the
car.
Van. We're like, oh shit. Like, and he's like, put this fucking vest on. We're like, oh damn, it's getting serious.
Had it not been for that vest, I think one of those because I got hit with a pepper pellet, and I just know that jacket kind of saved me from actually getting hit.
It was a fire coat.
Yeah, it was.
Fire coat and a vest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had I remember I had the AM 570 truck out there.
Yeah.
Because we drove out
because
there with
we got sent as the Mexicans to go and basically go into that neighborhood and talk to the gang members there.
Yeah.
Which we did.
And that's right, because what saved us ultimately was the KFI mic flag.
Yes.
Remember, I showed the mic flag, and the cops just walked right by us.
Yep. Yeah. But that was crazy because they did what they busted up a Starbucks.
They busted up the Starbucks right across from us, and then they went to a jewelry store and
the Anaheim riots.
That.
There was another thing that we did too with you. It was the Occupy LA, and I know that that was a big story too for here in LA, for us in LA. Everybody. That was huge, and you were like embedded in the center of it when they
evicted
dispersed, when they dispersed all the people out of there.
Yeah, that was a crazy one too, and that one surprised me because I got tipped off about the eviction coming, And so they said, it's coming. It'll happen at 7 o'clock. I think it was 7 o'clock. I had just had knee surgery for a torn meniscus the day before.
Oh my God.
So my knee was wrapped so tightly. My folks were in town visiting, so my dad wrapped my knee for me, being an old ball player. So he wraps up my knee, and I jumped out and I ran through that whole area down there when they evicted because it all went sideways.
Oh man, that was a crazy
You know what?
time.
From my experience, when we went out there, because John and Ken were covering it live.
Sure.
And I remember him and I were already there early in the morning to kind of scope out the area. And then finally, when it was time for John and Ken to arrive, John and Ken forgot to wait on their security. And so they were already far ahead. So I ran with them. And I still have the news article where it's the picture of me yelling at the crowd.
Cover at the LA Times.
While I'm in front of John and Ken because
Really?
they attacked.
Yeah,
So it was
it's
almost
awesome.
like raindrops where it starts, trinkling in little by little. So that's how it was, where people were coming in like, we don't want you here, F you, fuck you, we don't, this and that. I'm like, oh, here we go. And then once they started saying, hey, it's these guys from KFI, John and Ken, it almost felt like it started pouring in and they just swarmed us. And security was still behind. So I'll always remember that day where I'm like, dude, I'm going to have to fight all these people.
Seriously.
For John and Ken.
Well, here's the thing, though. Fortunately, you were there, but some of those people at the Occupy, I wasn't that afraid of.
Nah, they're harmless.
If you remember, it's the anarchists. When they get into there, those are the
That's
ones.
intense.
That's intense because
Yes.
they don't care what your cause is.
Nope.
Their whole thing
about
is
their
anarchy.
cause.
It's about their cause.
That day,
All the time.
what's his name was there from La Bamba, Richie's brother.
I don't remember.
And he was speaking on behalf of the Occupy LA people.
My gosh.
Yeah, and I remember standing right next to him.
All I remember is that they had porta potties there that they weren't emptying.
Yeah, they
You
were.
had a story on that you saw something inside the porta potty. I think you and DP saw it, right?
No, it was
Shout out
the
David
girl I was
Perez.
dating at the time. We had dinner downtown that night and she wanted to see it. And she
Oh.
wanted to see, what's that
wow.
Occupy LA stuff? And I said, yeah, so go around. And then I said, I have to pee. And she says, are you really going to go in there? I said, I really have to pee. Because with my press credential, I could get into City Hall or City Hall East or LAPD, but they had everything locked down because of Occupy LA. So I couldn't have even gotten in. So I said, wish me luck. And fortunately, it was quiet. No one was around there at the time, the one I went into. And when I opened the door,
What did we see?
all I know is that Ray Lopez called it a blumpkin.
A Blumpkin.
That's
Oh,
what.
gross,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, dude. I remember you coming
And
like,
if anyone wants to know what
we
that is,
just-
they can look it up.
yeah, you can
look
go
that
ahead and
up.
look that up. We're not gonna.
Yeah.
We're not
So-
gonna describe it.
We're talking with Steve Gregory. He is an investigative journalist, an international investigative and journalist. I know he tries to play it off and try to be humble about it, but his accolades shows different, and he's won many awards doing it. Steve, it's always good to talk to you because you have so many great stories and you've covered so many different topics. And I have to ask though, with all the moving parts, and from day to day, how do you keep these things organized in terms of like producing, meeting deadlines from directors and other outlets? I know that you have to answer to. So can you, people that watch and listen to our pod, tell us how you keep that organized?
Well, I'll show you.
All on the phone.
Google Calendar.
There it is. Right
Oh,
there.
geez,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a lot
show
of
the
things
camera, man.
going on.
That's about the best I can do right there is
Love
Google
it.
Calendar. Listen, it's really interesting because, and if you see, Russ, you and I, we go a long time back. I
Yeah.
can't remember when we first met.
Yeah.
And then,
Many years ago.
because you've been to a couple events with me, I think before
I
you
covered,
got on board.
I covered,
And-
the first stuff I ever covered with you was with, fortunately, if I got to do red carpets at SAGs.
Grammys.
Grammys. Yeah, absolutely.
the
Yeah, I got it. Man, media room and the
when we
whole
snuck
treatment.
in, when did we sneak in? We snuck in someplace, didn't
Yeah,
we?
that's when it was called Staples Center. Like,
Yeah, and we snuck in someplace, and we totally got in. We weren't supposed to be backstage
yeah,
or something.
yeah. We saw
And
the Daft Punk
and
stuff.
we snuck in. I
we're
was like,
outta
yeah,
here.
whatever. So it's funny because I was doing.
You guys can't talk about things that I'm not included.
Well,
on.
I mean,
no,
we're-
just
no,
No,
kidding.
no,
Yeah,
I'm
totally
just,
kidding.
what I'm getting
Totally
at is
kidding.
because back then I was a one-man band. I just
Yeah.
took care of myself. Everything was fine. And then as more and more, I started to expand into doing more content. I wanted to do different things, the specials. And then when Unsolved came about, the first time I think I ever accepted somebody in to be sort of a full-time helper, if you will, was Dave Perez.
Yes.
He went out because that was when he took over our social media and in our website, and we were pushing everything to the website.
Before digital was a department.
Before it
Now
wasn't
it's
exactly
a whole department. Right.
Exactly. So he kind of went with me to record things, which was a big help. But I still did all the editing and writing and all that stuff. And then he left. He went on to Apple, and then I was still a one-man band doing all my things on my own. And then I remember when the Kobe Bryant crash happened, and it was coming up on 1 year anniversary of the crash, because I remember breaking that story that morning on KFI as an anchor. TMZ broke the story, but I was the one that broke in on KFI because I was there to edit something, and I jumped in the booth and started going live about that. But I remember a year later I wanted to commemorate it. But I knew I was going to need help because I'm not a big sports guy. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I'm in a big sports town, but I'm not a sports guy.
Right.
Growing up in Colorado, Broncos were my team, Rockies, and that's fine. And I used to love going to those games, but I just really never got into it. So that's when I solicited or asked for Jacob Gonzalez.
Shout
to
out
help.
Jacob.
Yeah, because I'm like, Jake is a board op, and but I knew he was a big sports guy and a big basketball guy.
Yeah.
And he talked to me about him going to a Kobe camp as a kid, and there's pictures of him with Kobe as a kid. It was pretty cool, So I said, hey, I'm working on this thing. I need help. I need someone who understands the game and the sports and the background, because I don't know much about Kobe other than the trial in Colorado. So
It kind of hurts that you don't know much.
Were you going to talk about the hurt part with the rape trial, or are you talking about the hurt part that doesn't know much about Kobe?
Doesn't know much about Kobe.
Well, I know a lot now. I know a lot now.
It happened.
Because I had to study. So anyway, Jacob and I started working on this, and it turned out to be...
You're going to get kicked later.
Whatever. Sorry,
no violence. It's peace, people. Peace over violence. But I eventually, we ended up spending... I had to log this, 384 hours on that project.
Wow.
Because we did an 8-part podcast. We did a 2-hour radio special for KFI, a 2-hour radio special for KLAC, a custom for them. We did a 2-hour special for the network, and we did a 1-hour special for the FMs, and a 30-minute version for smaller markets.
That was the Kobe special, and I'm glad you brought it up because it is on our list here of talking about the Kobe Bryant special. Did you get an award for that too? I mean, I know you guys, because you and Jacob worked hard.
Can I just list some of the documentaries you've done?
Sure.
You did the 9/11, 2 decades later, Unhoused, Homelessness in Southern California, A Season of Fire After the Verdict, A Path Forward, Policing for Tomorrow, and Stopping the Hate, Deadly Pill, and which is most comprehensive look at the opioid and fentanyl crisis.
Yep.
And our most recent one was He Said, She Said, They Said, and that was addressing the LGBTQ plus curriculum in schools. We won a Murrow for that one. We're waiting. In fact, this coming week we should find out if we won a national Murrow for that one.
When you're coming up with a lot of these topics and these reports and these specials, like the Kobe one and the 9/11 one and all that stuff, I mean, I know the concept starts with you, but do you and your associate producer Jacob, do you guys sit there, collaborate, and try and get all the details going, and then eventually is most of it weighed on you, or does Jacob have a lot of input on that? In terms.
Yeah, and then so kind of dovetailing back to your initial question about how to or keep this all organized.
Yeah.
So when I brought Jacob aboard, I don't know if you recall that huge conference room that was the very corner of the building.
Oh yeah.
During COVID, that's got all those dry erase boards in there.
Yeah.
So I commandeered that room, and Jake and I sat in there for 5 weeks, I think. And what we did is storyboard. So we storyboarded the whole show because, again, not knowing a lot about Kobe, but I approached it as, let's talk about the investigation. That's why it's called The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant.
Right.
Because we start at the crash and the death, and then we go backwards.
Which still can be heard on the iHeartRadio app, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. You can go...
Spotify, Amazon, all of
anywhere, and stream that. And it's a great special. I've heard... I think I've heard all of it, and you guys did a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
During that time.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
But then listening to it, you understand. I wasn't talking about his sports acumen. This was more about
you
him.
were talking about the person,
his
Kobe
personal
Bryant.
life.
That was the topic, because Jacob was the one to help me, and then Eric Sklar helped a little bit on
Shout
the
out
radio
Eric Sklar.
on the radio side, because he was obsessed with stats and stuff like that. So between the two of them,
Yeah.
But I realized after that, Russ, that I welcomed the help.
Of
Because I was
course.
such a one-man band. I didn't trust anybody. I was all, because I know how I want things to sound. I know how I want things to look.
Right.
And I've got a style, and it was just easier for me to do everything.
Back to that journalistic integrity of your brand and who you are as Steve Gregory and what you deliver in meanings of content.
So now I have to start trusting people, and I have to start expanding that circle. And now I have a team.
That's awesome.
And it's great. I mean, so Jacob is my right hand. Now to your last question, he is a big part of my collaborative process, because I've learned now that I'm not the only one with good ideas.
Imagine that. Talk about dropping the ego, huh?
No, but I said that on purpose.
I know that.
But what I realized is, like, some of the stuff we've done was Jacob. And it was interesting because we'll sit there and I'll throw something by him because he's under 30. He's almost 30. He just turned 29. And so I say, this is what I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
What do you think? And then he gives me his perspective, and I'm like, I never thought of that. And then it ends up being a really good idea.
It's like just fresh and new. I mean,
and
sometimes it's okay
so now
to
I've
have
embraced it. So now Studio 640, my latest endeavor, I've brought aboard another associate producer, line producer for that show. And then Jake still is my EP because he basically oversees, because I'm traveling or doing whatever, he makes sure everything stays on target and on point. He knows my style now. We've been together 3 years. He knows what I like, what I expect. He's my quality assurance person.
Nice.
I trust him implicitly. And it's been wonderful to collaborate with him and to bring in these, because what I've been doing now, and I've never done this before, but like Jacob's the first person I credited on other than me on a golden mic. Nice. So our first year together collaborating, we won 5 golden mics.
I saw the pictures. Have you seen the pictures on Instagram?
Yeah.
At Steve Gregory 640.
Yeah. And at tapped media _.
Yeah, at tapped in _
Tapped in.
No, it's oh shit. Tapped in media _ Got it, almost there.
Tapped in.
No, okay. So
a nice little logo back there.
So
Thanks,
I love that though. That's a good logo. I like that.
Thanks.
But no. So it has really been refreshing, and then Richie brings a perspective because I'm dealing with 3 different college journalists every week.
That's awesome.
So Richie's got that sort of connection with the bond with them. It helps. And then, but everyone who's a part of any one of my projects now is Nick Pagliocchini.
Oh, I remember.
On
Yeah.
Traffic. He was a huge part of the success of He Said, She Said, They Said, because he was our direct connection to the gay community and to the LGBT community. I mean, he hooked us up with this private dinner that goes on every Monday with drag queens.
Okay.
And then it's the only day of the week that they're not drag queens. And it was a fascinating experience and look into that sort of human condition.
You brought up Studio 640. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You brought up Studio 640. Tell us a little bit more what it is as far as that goes. I've seen some of it, but just
I've seen some of it. College students.
Yeah.
It's it was a project I come up with about 12 years ago as a way to build a sort of farm team of journalists for KFI.
Nice.
My news director, Chris Little, at the time, we talked about it. He was on board. Robin, our program director, not so much. She just thought, nah.
Shout out to both of them. I love them both.
She's just like, nah, I don't know. And she gets mad when I say that, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
So earlier this year, she says, we need a show for Sundays. And she said, you got any ideas? And I said, I've always got some
Tapped
ideas.
in media.
I said, I've always got, but you can't say shit and fuck.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Interview based.
I was just like, well, I know. And then she said, didn't you want to do a show with college kids once? I said, well, yeah. And she goes, how quickly can you get that on the air? I'm like, what? So I said, listen, it's not something I can just put on the air. I have to create an infrastructure for a show that did not exist because there's a lot of moving parts here. We've reached out to 23 different colleges and universities.
Wow.
From there, we narrowed it down. We had about 21 college journalists. It's the guests every week. The panel is made up of college journalists. And what it is like Meet the Press or Real Time with Bill Maher, but it's just college students. So I'm the moderator, the traffic cop. I bring up the topics and then let them talk about the news of the week through the eyes of a college journalist, how they see the story. So like today's headlines seen through tomorrow's journalist's eyes. kind
Wow.
of that, if you will.
Can I ask you this something? When it comes down to these college students, how, do you feel like there's a certain mindset, especially with these college students now, as far as like their political views, and do they come off as somewhat biased, like only leaning towards one side?
So, in my experience, most new college journalists are usually leaning more left, a little more liberal, because that's and they are a product of their teaching. So whoever is teaching these values on them, they come out of school usually with those mostly left leanings. Now, we have a couple people on our panel that I would characterize as more right leaning, but it's not for me to judge.
Right.
I will tell you that based on the answers to my questions. Now, something had come up in a topic a couple weeks ago where there was the videotape of a big man that had been punched by an LAPD officer. Well, the narrative was there was the use of force, and they hit the guy, a big guy, while he was in handcuffs. Well, only one hand had handcuffs on it. See, so what was interesting is we play the audio, the students weigh in, and of course they're all outraged. I said, well, did you watch the body cam footage? It gives a different perspective. I asked him, I said, okay, that's your assignment. How do you cover it? All you see is the 20-second video. How do you cover it? Well, they were like this and that and the other, and they were like outraged. And I said, not one of them said, call the LAPD for comment.
Wow.
And I said, why wouldn't you call the police for comment? Yeah. Well, they're not going to talk to us. Well, you need to call and ask.
You got to ask
Still need
first.
to
So
do your job.
what I find out is that there's these enlightening moments, these aha moments with them
yeah.
that they're seeing. And then I walk them through the whole story in real time. And then at the end of it, now I say, now what's your perspective on the story? I'm not trying to change their mind.
Right.
I'm just trying to give them all the facts now. And then they realize they jumped the gun.
Wow. So I like the concept though, like the bringing in the fresh ideas of new journalists, like you had put it that way. At first, I never really understood. Like I saw it was one of your newer projects, but I do want to talk about your extremely popular project that's on Saturdays from 7 to 9, heard on KFIM 640 and also on the iHeartRadio app. Unsolved. You came up with this concept of like many of these stories that have pretty much gone by the wayside because all these people don't have the money or the resources to keep this going, to go and find these unsolved murder or
they brush it
killings,
under the rug,
or they brush it, whatever it is. Have any of the cases that you've done so far been solved?
Yes, but not because of me. But our show generates a lot of new leads.
Oh, wow.
That's one thing we've been told by both federal authorities and locals. And that's very, it's very exciting for me to hear that and to hear cops tell me that. But the show was born from the Gary and Shannon show.
How is that?
They had me in to talk about a segment on an unsolved case I was talking about. It was a horrific story in El Monte. A 13-year-old girl stopped at a liquor store to call her sister or call her mom at home to say, I'm going to be late. And as that was happening, there was a gang in the parking lot, and a rival gang pulled up and opened fire. And the girl got shot in the head by gunfire. And she died right there at the liquor store. Well, fast forward, I believe it was 93. And fast forward, they found the guys that were the shooters years later. They found them.
Were they incarcerated or were they still free amongst the
They were
streets?
all, one of them was a school bus driver.
What?
One was a businessman. And what they had done is they sort of just pushed off their past and they had moved on to their lives until the knock at the door. And it was a detective saying, we've got evidence, we've got forensic evidence that ties you
So
to
these
this
guys
crime.
basically cleaned up their life in a sense. And many years later.
So
It caught up.
interestingly, though, because of the district attorney's new policies, he would not prosecute them for the murder
Good old Gascon.
because they committed the crimes when they were juveniles. So,
Oh, my God.
And so they were all arrested and booked, but because you're let out of juvenile detention at 25, even for murder, at 25 you're done. And so they wanted me to highlight the story. The detective that reached out to me wanted me to highlight the story and sort of the injustice for the family, because I interviewed the girl's sister.
Yeah.
All these years later, I sat down and interviewed her and the mother. The mother was distraught, even in the interview.
course.
Was distraught of remembering that day. So as I was highlighting it, they kept me on for an hour to talk about this case because I had the interviews with the daughters and everything.
Right.
the sister. After that, my phone blew up with other detectives. Hey, can you highlight my case? Can you give my case some attention?
Oh my God!
And Robin loved it, and she's like, "This is great." She said, maybe that should be our new Saturday show because we needed a show for Saturdays.
Saturday, yeah.
I can't remember what we lost, but I do now remember. But
it wasn't Wayne.
No,
because he was, I think,
Suits.
after. Oh, Suitsy. Yep, I remember that.
So we lost that show, and I said, I don't have time. She goes, well, let's talk about it. And then about a week later, she talked to me again. She goes, I think it'll work. Can you do something? I'm like, oh, Jesus. So again, we have to create an infrastructure for a show that didn't exist. Because those shows are different, like than a Gary and Shannon or Bill Handel.
Of course.
Because it's live and then when they're done with that day, they just turn off the switch and they're done until the next day.
The show is live or
everything's taped.
Oh, it's all taped,
I have
right?
to
You have
because
to. Yeah, it's just a lot.
We take the show on the road, so we've got a big field kit. So we're down at Homicide Bureau. We have to set up down there because I didn't want this to be a studio show. I wanted to be in the belly of the beast, as it were.
Yeah.
I wanted a Pomona Police Department. I've done 3 cases with Pomona PD.
Right here.
Where we sit there in their interview room so I can say, we're here at the Pomona Police Department. We're inside the investigator's room, and we're talking about this such and such case. I wanted the realism. I wanted to transport people to where I was going. I wanted them to know I was here, and that's part of the allure. Sometimes the sound quality, it's like echoey and shit the room, but I don't care. Because it lends that sort of authenticity,
yes,
and it gives people a real.
It's novel. It adds to the story, and then how it's coming about so the people that are listening to you.
Plus, I want it to, when it comes back on the air, I want everything to be tight. I want it to be perfectly edited. I want the music. Every piece of music I use on Unsolved has a crime nexus to it.
No way! Wow. Now I'm gonna go back now and listen to more of it, and now that I know
has
that
a crime show or some sort of a crime nexus to it. Every piece of music I use on that show, including the opening theme.
So we've been, kind of ball watching it and getting a big
and,
so great, we getting all these accolades in.
And now we're gonna go down my deep dark
past. So I kind of want to bring back.
We do like using ball washing.
I kind of want to bring him back to his humble beginnings. For people that don't know, you were actually a band teacher and was teaching a citywide marching band, and also performed with a symphony for 14 years. So.
Big musician.
What happened with what
what
made you switch up?
So I originally went to college. My major was music education. So I went to school to be a band teacher. I played in the symphony, but I was always doing radio in the mornings. I started out on a country radio station. Go figure. As
a jock, then. So you were.
Well, I was a jock at a big band jazz classical station. I was with a full service AM. A full service is, for people that don't know, full service is we did news, we did weather. No traffic in my hometown. News, weather, farm report, music, church service. It's a full service AM. So I started there, actually, KGHF Radio AM. And then I eventually got in, but I was always doing symphony at night and doing that and going to school for music education. Radio has always been the constant thing in my life. It's the only consistent thing I've ever done is radio.
That's awesome.
I mean, none of my relationships have ever lasted as long as my career in radio. But it's the one thing I can hang my hat on. And there was something about radio. So even when I was doing news and traffic for the country station, that's when I got my first taste of how popular the station is, and people started to recognize you. And I'm thinking, people actually listen. And when I realized the power that the medium has and how you impact people, they tell me, you make me laugh, and I love when you do this, and I love when you and Dave and Gina were my first 2 morning show people, and I love when you guys do this. It's hilarious. And I was the man on the street guy, and I'd drive around and call out someone's license plate on the air, and if they pulled over, I'd give them a dozen donuts.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
not bad.
Anyway, so it was just always the constant. Then I managed restaurants for a while. I did that.
It sounds like a real radio job type thing, because have multiple gigs because you got to keep the.
Well, yeah, because the first year or so, I think almost 2 years, I was in radio. I didn't get paid. I got paid in trade.
Wow.
I got restaurant coupons. I got movie tickets. My car got repaired. So then I'd have to go work at a restaurant. I'd have to go be a server at a restaurant or a bartender to make ends meet. But that's how it went for like a year or two. And then as managers started to see what I could do, then I started getting paid, and then I got moved over to another company. And then eventually, Clear Channel, the precursor to iHeartMedia, came in and bought up all of our stations. And so then I became, in 1993, I became an employee of Clear Channel.
Clear Channel Media.
And then eventually I moved to Phoenix in 2000, and I worked for Clear Channel there for KFYI. And then that's when Jay Lawrence, may he rest in peace, was a reporter at KFI. He and I met at covering the Minuteman Project at the border of Arizona, Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
I was embedded with them for 30 days. And then Jay and I met. Jay tells my boss about me. And then that's how I ended up.
I have a sad. I didn't know that he passed away, and rest in peace. Jay Lawrence was one of the reporters that I met when I first got at KFI, and man, I had to walk him out on his exit from KFI. Oh. So it's crazy part is I walked out Jay Lawrence, I walked in Tim Conway Jr. And me, I'm still new in the building, like I had no idea what's going on. And I knew who Jay Lawrence was.
That's chicken shit.
I know.
That was chicken shit to make you, the new kid, do that. That's chicken
I did. Unfortunately, I did walk him out. And then, no joke, the same week, I remember, or maybe even after, Tim Conway Jr., who had just left KLSX, right. KLSX flipped the switch, and he comes in. I was like, "Hey man, I love your show," and then I'm glad you're here. He's like, "Yeah, I guess they're talking about doing it on weekends." It's just crazy how radio does that, like it just the changing of the guards or whatever it is. And you brought up Jay Lawrence, and I'm like, "Oh wow, I totally remember."
He was
that.
an Orange County bureau reporter for many years at KFI. Then
crazy.
Conway, his first show, I was on his first show on that Saturday because it was breaking news. It was when the porn star jumped off the cliff in front of me in North Hills.
Oh yeah, the sword, the guy that killed people with the sword,
the guy with the samurai sword, and fell down, or not fell, he jumped, and snapped his neck in front of me.
Oh my god! Talk about walking to your
Bellio
first day.
Sharon Bellio was with me, and
shout out Bellio.
It messed her up for a couple of days.
Oh, for sure.
You guys seen it firsthand, huh?
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into the car chases she's been with me on.
You know what? Actually, I want to give you mad respect for giving me the opportunity also in because at that time I was trying to get into the sheriffs, and you got me on that ride along with, I believe it was Compton sheriffs.
Ah, really?
You don't remember this? It was at night. We were out there at night, and we were driving by, and it just so happened.
Did you and I go, or you went by yourself?
No, it was you and I. We went with one of the sergeants.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember we drove by this neighborhood, and there was a liquor store, and there was a woman standing there, and she looked a little off. So I told the officer, I'm like, "Hey, she looks," and sure enough, he pulled out. He pulled over, walked out, and talked to her, and it just so happened that she was getting beat by her, and she was trying to get away, and she was just standing there though, trying to figure out what to do.
I vaguely remember that.
Man.
Wow. Yeah, because I do remember you wanting to go into the sheriff's department.
We'll talk about off the air.
Sure, I do remember you wanting to do that.
I just went yesterday.
Good.
We'll talk about it.
He doesn't quit, which I love about this guy's relentless, man.
Good.
Steve, we're gonna wrap it up here. So we could talk to you for hours because you have so much. I mean, you have so many stories.
A lot of years. I got a lot of stories.
You have a lot of experience, and but before we wrap it up, we definitely we appreciate you doing that, and we now that you've seen us interview and you heard us interview and you see our style and stuff like that, because we know that you're an instructor. There is a 1-week media relations course that you do, and which is apparently it's a highly rated course by executive leadership. Is this something that you might recommend that we need to do? And if we do need to do it, can we get a discount?
Well, no, you don't need to do it because neither of you are representing.
We gotta ask.
Neither of you is representing an agency that's a spokesperson.
No, that's true.
These are classes for people that are spokespersons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a media relations course to specifically target spokespeople for police departments, fire departments, first responder agencies. No, you guys, no, you don't need any help. You do just fine.
We had to bring it up because we constantly have man, maybe we need to get a little more educated on some of the things.
No,
and,
I mean the thing is
that
again goes back to the police training thing that I do.
Yeah.
In fact, next week 2 weeks from now, the FBI has hired me to do a conference for their agents.
That's amazing.
I did one for Homeland Security last fall, but I go to Florida once a year, twice a year actually. Grady Judd, the sheriff down there, He has me teach at his international academy down there for a week. I teach for a week down there, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're everywhere. I mean, you really are putting in all the work. I don't have a wife and
kids. I don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because Rojo wanted to ask that question too. I mean, about balance?
Yeah, your balance, life.
So, yeah. So my. How far should I go here?
Oh man, we hit him. We stumped him on this one. Like we got him on everything else he was great about. Now we got him.
It's just like
oh, my personal life. Let's see.
Well, it's like, for instance, like when I'm done here, I got to go in the office and work for a couple hours.
Yeah,
but I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. And then I'll go over to my favorite Mexican joint and I'll sit there with my laptop because they named a booth after me.
No way.
Yeah, tequilas on Magnolia.
So you're not gonna hit up a Mexican joint around here?
I don't know any.
There's not very many.
There's
a lot. Yeah.
I don't know.
Talking about
Merenderos is nice.
Merendero, right across the street.
We lost our light, but that's all right.
But so yeah, I don't really think much about it. If I want to take time off, I take time off. If I feel like I'm hitting the wall, I take time off. If I need to go on a day trip, drive somewhere, meet friends, I go.
Great.
I'm very blessed of having a good circle of friends that I can call up, have dinner with, go over, like Jacob, for instance. He's an amazing cook. He has me over sometimes like once a week to make dinner.
That's cool.
He and his girlfriend have me over. I bring wine, and he just puts out this incredible spread. That for me, one night there, it's
big
like
foodie.
Yeah, one night there is like a week's worth of rest for me.
Had you not done Unsolved or all these investigative special reports, I know for a fact that you wanted to do a food show.
Yeah.
But the food show, unfortunately, was shifted over to another one of my mentors.
Well, I will tell you this.
Neil Sabedra.
I was told
on the Fork Report.
Shout out Fork Report.
Shout out Fork Report.
I was doing a food and entertainment show at KFYI in Phoenix on Saturdays when I was doing reporting during the week. When I pitched the idea to Robin, she says, and then this is off the heels of another food show we used to have on. They were amazing, talented chefs, but they just weren't broadcasters.
The Red Hot Tamales.
Yes. And
the Hot Tamales?
Two Hot Tamales.
The two Hot Tamales.
And they were amazing.
They were awesome.
They were awesome, but they weren't broadcasters. And I think it was starting to weigh on them, weigh on us. And I think, and so it was jettisoned.
One of them was on Iron Chef not too long ago, I think.
As a judge.
As a judge, right? Yeah.
So when I went to Robin, I said, listen, I used to do this in Phoenix, and I'd love to be able to do it. I'm never having another food show on this station. 6 months later, Neil had a food show. So bitter much? Nah, whatever. But the beauty of that is I'm able to do food specials and features. I do food features, and I just do that on my own. I'll go out and I did an amazing interview with a guy in his 80s that still runs the Roma Market in Pasadena. And he does these amazing sandwiches. Hasn't changed the price of his Italian sandwiches in decades.
That's awesome.
Still $6 for a big, huge sandwich.
Love deli sandwiches.
But and then I'll do a story about steak and cooking steak. And I did the first interview, American interview with Nusret, the guy, Salt Bay.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I ambushed him at his restaurant in Beverly Hills because he wasn't getting back to me. So I ambushed him. Jake and I ambushed him one night.
That's the way to do it, though, man.
Seriously.
Sometimes you just got to go in there.
And he ended up giving us an interview.
It's old school.
He's never done an interview in the United States before.
I love that.
So, I like doing food stuff.
Steve, can you tell us a little bit before we wrap it up about your famous lockout? And can you do it here on Tapped In Media?
Well, first things first. The lockout is an homage to Jay.
Yes, because you brought that up. Jay actually told me that in the elevator on the way down. No joke, at 3400 West Olive Avenue.
Wow, you want to put out that whole address? Huh?
It's not. It's public information. Okay. But the location. But he told me that on the way down. He's you know who's gonna take that lockout? I was like, I'm not even sure. But he goes, he's coming, and he goes, you know what? And he's a very good journalist.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, now sadly, his wife got upset at me because she thought I was stealing it. It was really weird. She came up to me at a party one night, and when Jay was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, God, no, what am I talking about? No, he had already passed, and we got together, and Jody Becker and a bunch of us had gotten together. We invited her over, and she started chewing my ass out for doing his lockout. And I said, no, you don't understand. That's the way I'm honoring him. Because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be at KFI.
Yeah.
So that's my way to honor Jay. And then she started crying.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah. The second part, no.
No?
No.
No.
He won't do it for us.
I won't do it. I don't do it on camera. I don't do it in public. Sorry.
Well, you're going to have to listen on KFIM 640 because I
we
know
tried.
he does it
We
on
tried.
some of the lockout stuff of many of his stories out there. Steve, like I said, man, we could talk to you all day about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. There's so much, many questions that we left out too.
When him and I were, when we do our meetings, we meet often about getting all of our information together so we don't sound like idiots.
That's a lie.
Well, I mean, come on, we do meet about stuff, but we had to ask and see if we could do that. Well, go ahead and plug all your socials and everything that you do currently on KFI, even
all
for
your projects.
all your projects. We would love for you. Just go ahead and list them out for us.
Okay, so I'm on Monday through Friday in news, and it's random, but you'll hear me on the newscasts. I appear on the talk shows. Saturday night, 7 to 9, as you talked about, Unsolved with Steve Gregory is our show on unsolved crimes. We're expanding. We've been doing Las Vegas cases lately, too. Sundays from 2 to 4 p.m. is Studio 640, featuring the college journalists. We've got a 4-hour project coming up called Miss Dis, and it's an exploration on misinformation, disinformation, timing that right before the election. We're doing a documentary or a news special on the televised car chases in Southern California. We call it Pursuit.
Yes.
Nice.
It's a partnership with a local television news station. You'll see
Who
coming up
doesn't
here.
love a good car chase?
Yeah, so we're exploring the first car chase, televised car chase, and we're going to talk to a psychologist about why people are drawn to it.
That's great.
And we're tracking down. We've got a couple people on the hook to talk to that actually took cops on a car chase.
That's pretty cool. I like the insight from the actual person that's being chased.
Yeah, that's a hard one because some of them haven't been adjudicated yet, and others don't want to talk about it because they were high on drugs and don't remember it.
Okay, wow. Sounds about right.
So we've got that. We've got all kinds of. We've got another special coming up on the border. We got another bunch of stuff coming up.
Another border case.
Yeah, and then
Doesn't go away.
Yeah, beyond
It
that,
never will.
And a couple of the projects are being developed for television.
That's
all I can
awesome.
tell you on that one. So.
That is
It's a whole
awesome.
lot.
Yes, I know. If you
Yeah.
guys want to check out Steve again one more time, at Steve Gregory 640, also heard on KFI AM 640.
And again, if you need some weekend workers,
That'll be us. You can go ahead and check out Steve right there. Check us out as well at _media on Instagram. And on the YouTube channel, it's just Tapped In Media. Give
don't
us a
forget
like.
TikTok.
Oh my God! If you must, Rojo.
I mean,
if you must.
that's our socials.
I know you're right. I know. I was the first
Tapped In
follower
Media,
on your
Tapped In
on your little
_ media
TikTok
on
adventure
TikTok.
there. Yeah, go ahead and hit us up on TikTok as well. And thanks, Steve, so much for
Thank
coming
you,
down
guys.
and
This was
in the
fun.
studio,
Pleasure.
man.
An honor.
You're one of our
No.
first in person. It is an honor because
It is.
I mean, and I also want to thank you too for the years of just as Rojo said, for the ride along. Thank you for because I do consider you one of my mentors because you have shown me the way on many things and how to approach, like even at a red carpet or if we're inside of a media like event and how to approach people and do it. I mean, I got my first interview with RZA from the Wu-Tang because of this guy. And James Gandolfini one time told me, he's what agency you with? I go Fox. He's like, Fox News. It was great, man.
That's right.
I was like, oh, I've never been rejected
Well,
so
he's
hard.
dead now. I'm just saying.
Oh man, but thanks, man. Go ahead and check all that stuff out. Russ and Rojo here with Tapped In Media. Also, big shout out to Joseph and
Yeah, thank you, Joseph.
3P Studios.
3P Studios,
which
here
we'll be
downtown
doing,
Pomona.
Yeah, which we'll be doing a lot more stuff here in this studio. And if you want more information on that, go ahead and get at us, and we'll tell you how to get linked up with 3P Studios. Tapped In Media. Give us a follow. Hear us out. Reach out. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.